I have something before we start. I wanted to read something by Rabbi Sachs. Don asked a very important question last week. And let me, oh, good grief, I have several books here, and let me see if this is the one. I apologize. I should have had bookmarks in these and
Wait, come in.
But basically, what
Do I need the light?
Helene, can you mute yourself? Or you're talking to somebody else?
Helene is talking to someone else. Yes.
No, asking her to mute herself.
Okay. Now and I had difficulty finding. I was going to read it to you, but in essence, it is the accounting that occurs is not so much from the standpoint of money exchange, as Don was talking about. It is a listing for honesty. It's an accountability. It's accounting. And that's why that is included. It's an indication of honesty, what it was used for, how much of it, by weight. The discussion should have been not by shekels, but by shekel weight, as it says in Torah. And so this accounting is a form of honesty. That is Rabbi Sachs' understanding of that. So take it or not, but I just think that it's if you look at it that way, it starts to make a little more sense in the context of the entire story of how everything was used. So anyway, enough said. I should have started with our opening prayer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Amen.
Amen. Shal Shabbat.
Welcome, Rabbi, and Gail has her hand up already.
I'd like to read a poem appropriate for today, since it's Earth Day. May I
Okay,
read the poem?
sure.
Okay. I am the earth, and the earth is me. Each blade of grass, each honey tree, each bit of mud and stick and stone is blood and muscle, skin and bone. And just as I need every bit of me to make my body fit, so earth needs grass and stone and tree and things that grow here naturally. That's why we celebrate this day. That's why we across the world we say, as long as life, as dear as free, I am the earth, and the earth is me.
Lovely.
Very nice.
Lovely.
Well, we're starting to finish up let's see, chapter 39, and then we will be going into chapter 40 of the book of Genesis. We are on verse 29.
Genesis? Not Genesis.
I'm sorry, Exodus. Thank you all. There's a reason I had Genesis on my mind, but it is the book of Exodus. So chapter 39, verse 29. This is where we stopped last week, and we were in the midst of the accounting, and Don asked an important question about it, and that's why I was responding. On any other comments,
Marty,
Don, you would like to make?
Marty,
Yes.
Michael wanted to say something, and I would like to say something regarding
All right.
Ron's question.
Please, Michael, please. I'm sorry. I was looking down and I
You're
was.
you're mute.
Michael, you're muted.
Okay. With the accounting and honesty, would that also be associated with mitzvahs?
In what way, Michael? Explain.
Well, we know that you're supposed to be honest.
Right.
However, not everybody is, unfortunately. And I was just thinking if that would be on the order of doing a mitzvah. That's all.
Okay, Rabbi Norman has a response.
It's a very good question, Michael.
Yeah.
I'm trying to race through my head very quickly. I can't think of an overriding mitzvah in the sense of the 613 that says, you shall be honest in all your dealings. There are several of them that are more specific. You shall be honest in your, in adjusting your weights. For example, in measurements, you shall be honest in the way that you treat your laborer, your servant, things like that. But I can't think of one offhand like you shall not steal. So I can't think of an overriding one. But there are individual examples, and probably I don't know how many of them would be considered out of the 613. I don't know if that answers your question, but
In a way, yes. Outside of the 613 mitzvahs that you can do, there must be personal mitzvahs. I would think. What led me to the question is I heard this some time ago, that one has a bank book of money and another a person has two books. One is a bank book of money.
Right.
Another is a book of mitzvahs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what led me to get involved with this what we were talking about.
Yeah, I think in the more in the more familiar term of mitzvahs, which would be not only commandments but also righteous deeds, good deeds, things like that, then yes, then yes. But when they talk about it, I'm familiar with that with that allegory also of that there are two books that you have to present when you appear before the judge on high. You have to present both of your both of your books. And that refers to all the mitzvahs, all the gemilut chasadim, all the acts of love and kindness, of common decency and integrity that are above and beyond the 613. You're right.
Well, one other thing I would add to that, if I may, Rabbi, let me ask you that: are there different levels of mitzvah? Some mitzvahs are more valuable than others, or are they all identical?
No, and Rabbi Miri's shaking her head also. No.
Okay.
No, not really. Not really. Not from the Jewish point of view, perhaps from the societal norm point of view, but not from the Jewish point of view.
Okay, thank you.
Rabbi
Okay.
Miri, Rabbi Miri, can
Yeah.
I let Helene go first?
Yes, sure, sure.
Thank you, because sometimes she has to leave early.
Thank you. I want to talk to the rabbi, and because I want to show him what I brought, a Kabbalah to show I don't think he was here. May I talk to the rabbi?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, want to show him. That's all. Rabbi, did you get to see this? You asked if I knew anything about a Kabbalah, and
Right.
I get it all the time. And I said I would bring one to show. And I just wondered if you had a chance to see it.
Not that one specifically, and I can't see it well enough on the screen.
Well, then I will
But
read it to you.
okay,
Would you like that?
okay, sure. With Marty's
Okay.
permission, he's
Sure, sure.
yeah,
Here's
go ahead.
how it looks. Here's how it looks. It comes in like this. Okay?
Hmm.
I'm a little crooked. Okay.
You're okay.
You're not crooked, not at all.
I will read it to you, Rabbi. Where is the rabbi?
Well, I'm here.
Hi, honey. Okay. Ayin Nun Vav. Do you know those words? Ayin Nun Vav.
Okay,
And here it, and there it is in Hebrew. You'll get this copy. This will be for you.
okay.
I'll read it and then we'll let go. But I think I need a light because my eyes aren't so good. Okay, here's what it says. Appreciation, thankfulness, gratitude, these noble attributes of Moses are aroused within me by this name. Infused with these attributes, I retain and enjoy all the blessings and treasures in my life. That's a Kabbalah.
That's a Kabbalah. There's a the literary strain. It leads somewhat into the Musar literature. Will take the words and letters in the Hebrew characters in the Hebrew alphabet, and develop a little bit of a little teaching, a maxim, if you will, for each of those words. So one, like you said, ayin nun vav, the word anav. Is one of the characteristics or adjectives describing Moses. So just as Moses was honest and humble and the adjectives that you read there, that's what each of us should strive to find in our own lives. That's the point of that. It's a beautiful teaching.
Yeah, I believe that. That's much teaching in the Kabbalah. And guess what? You can share this Kabbalah with everybody. It's there for you. It's there for your temple. It's there for your family. So I will leave this for you.
Okay.
And you can make copies. Beth Shalom can make copies and send them out because I think it's a gorgeous thing.
Thank you. Thank you.
And what you added makes it even more gorgeous. Okay?
Thank you.
I will leave it for you.
Okay.
Any questions? That's all I know is I'm passing it on to you.
Thank you
you.
so much, Elaine, for that.
You're welcome.
Rabbi Mary, and then Don.
Okay, Don, this is for you. What Marty spoke about the shekel weight. I and you were connected with shekel as coins because the coin in Israel, the money in Israel is shekel. So we said, okay, and you contested it, saying they could not have money, that. And now listen carefully. The word shekel, the root of it is shakol, mishkal, is weight. Not weight for me, but the weight, how much it weighed. And now if we think about at that time, what they decided, and I'll tell you, when I came to Israel, they still were doing that. You had the Moznaim, you had the scale that had two sides. A scale that had two sides. Now, if you wanted to know how much to put on the side of bread, let's say, you put stones on the other side until it was equal. You know that they use stones. Now in England, until now, they used to say, oh, my ex-mother-in-law used to say, oh, I lost 2 stones. And I'm saying, what's that about? You know, she lost 2 stones. It was a weight. And we use this all the time. How many pounds? And pounds is written in LB. That's pound, a pound of weight. That's what we use as money. So at that time, probably they decided how much weight they had to give. Since the root of the word shakol is lishkol, it's to weigh, I think that was the idea. So in a way, you were right. They didn't have money. That took a long time until civilization got money. But they used stones, and they call it shekel. And the two of us were thinking last week, well, shekel is the name of the money in Israel, at least. Got it? Accept it?
Okay. Don, go ahead.
Okay, well, first, thank you, Marty, for doing the extra research with Cloud. Appreciate that. And thank you, Rabbi Mary. Thank you, Helena, for your words of wisdom. And a quick comment on the quality of mitzvahs. I'm reminded of Orwell's Animal Farm, where all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. That may go for mitzvahs as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to my question. I'm not sure. In fact, I'm pretty sure I didn't express my question the way I wanted it to come out based on the answers, the response I'm getting. My real question had to do when Exodus was written. And that reflects the presence of money at a time when money probably wasn't in use. So at the time of the Exodus, I'm pretty sure that there was a straight barter. Like it was like 15 chickens was equal to 1 cow, which is a combination of weight and utility. And that's how they probably would have understood the donation for worship. But then my question was, okay, if this was written maybe probably 1,000 years later.
Don, can you come closer to the microphone, please?
I'm sorry. I forgot to adjust my mic setting before. Is that any better?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll adjust the mic in a second. So Exodus was written probably 1,000 years later, after the fall of the first temple. And then money was, the accepted form of commerce. So as soon as we monetize things, make something worth money, then we're in a real trading economy. And everybody forgets that 15 chickens is worth a cow because it's how many shekels are involved. But my question had to do more with that. How did the people that we're reading about understand what their contributions meant to them? Because the poor, nobody would have had shekels. They might have had grain, they might have had livestock, they might have had homemade jewelry, they might have anything, but there was no way to tell what it was worth because it hadn't been important enough to monetize it at the time. So my question had to do more with how did the people understand the value of what they were giving if there weren't shekels around? And with that, as I said last week, I'm happy to drop it. It wasn't all that important, but I was just intrigued. But I appreciate
Dan,
it. Yeah.
Dan, what about when we do measurements that we do, it's called amma, which is the arm
The cubit.
or this day. And the
Man.
question is, or feet. I mean, let's go to America. Whose foot?
But
How do
money,
they decide that which is a foot?
yeah, money is so much more abstract, though. When you measure something, it's so many cubits, so many times away from your
No.
finger to elbow.
But when you say the word feet or foot, the
Yeah.
question is, was the foot of the king or my foot or
Yeah, it's
whose
relative,
foot?
but it's relative, but it's still not nearly as abstract as money. Money is it all in the head. There's nothing you can really measure. You can't measure the length of money like you can the length of a foot. It does. Anyway, I'm going to get us into a rabbit hole here, and I didn't mean to. So
Okay. I just wanted to throw something out that is also one of the section on gleanings in Plout concerning this. And it is Hasidic in origin. Why does Torah emphasize that 1/2 rather than a full shekel per head was required? Okay. And it's mentioned twice. And they go on to say that shekel has the same numerical value as nefesh, soul.
Okay.
Both have the value of 430. And I'm not going to go into the addition of the letters and like that. The Hasidic reasoning for this was God wants half a shekel because he wants half a soul, a broken spirit, not an arrogant one. That is the Hasidic interpretation from when everyone had to give half a shekel.
Gematria. Yeah.
That's
Gematria is, yeah.
yes, it is gematria, but I just brought that in because I know
it's nice. It's very nice.
likes that.
Very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. So I just thought that all of these are interesting comments. Don, what you said, as I said last week, was very important. It's an important consideration. And I don't know the answer to the hard answer to your question, that when people became aware of money, I don't know if it was already in use in Egypt. I just do not know, but it may come. There may have been. It's an interesting question. You would have to ask somebody who is who's interested in coinage and like that to find out when that came into being. I just don't know. But there's a lot of philosophical discussion about it. Yes.
Okay. Oh, thanks, Marty. I was going to leave it, but I'll mention as an afterthought that as soon as you have money, then you have usury. And that's
usury in loans.
And loans and interest on the loans, which has been certainly an important factor in the history of Judaism, for better or worse. And So I don't know. It's just a little pet interest I had, and I'm almost sorry I brought it up. But thanks for recognizing my question.
Okay. Well, why don't we start reading with verse 29. David isn't with us today. He has he'll be joining us next week. But would anyone care to read?
You're talking chapter 39, verse 29?
Yes, starting there.
That's in the middle of a sentence.
Yeah, go back to 20. Let's see. I guess
27, though.
27. Yes.
Yeah.
And then we can continue with that. Is there somebody able to read for us? Oh, go ahead, Don.
Okay, is my mic okay now?
Yeah.
Okay, starting with verse 27. And they made coats of fine linen of woven work for Aaron and for his sons, and a mitre of fine linen, and goodly bonnets of fine linen, and linen breeches. Is that the right verse?
Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it's 38. 38. It's my mistake, my error.
Verse 38. And the golden.
No. It's chapter 38,
Oh,
verse
chapter
29. It was my error.
There you go.
All right. No wonder.
There you go. Okay.
Okay. Chapter 38, verse 20.
And
Verse 29.
9.
Okay. And the brass of the offering was 70 talents, and 2,400 shekels. And therewith he made the sockets to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the brazen altar, and the brazen grate for it, and all the vessels of the altar, and the sockets of the court round about, and the sockets of the court gate, and all the pins of the tabernacle, and all the pins of the court round about.
Okay, any questions about this? Or discussion? Okay, let's we now enter chapter 39. Okay, it was my error before. So if somebody would read verses 1 through 7. Don, since you're on a roll, go ahead.
Okay, sure, thanks. Verse 1. And of the blue and purple and scarlet, they made cloths of service to do service in the holy place, and made the holy garments for Aaron, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he made the ephod of gold, blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen. And they did beat the gold into thin plates, and cut it into wire, to work it in the blue, and in the purple, and in the scarlet, and in the fine linen with cunning work. They made the shoulder pieces for it, to couple it together. By the two edges was it coupled together. And the curious girdle of this ephod that was upon it was of the same, according to the work thereof, of gold, blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen, as the Lord commanded Moses. And they wrought onyx stones enclosed in I'm not sure this next word, in ouches of gold, graven as signets are graven, with the names of the children of Israel. And he put them on the shoulders of the ephod, that they should be stones for a memorial to the children of Israel, as the Lord commanded Moses.
Okay. Any comments about this? It's an what impressed me was the weight of this garment. You know, it's a breastplate, but it's heavy. It's not for protective reasons. So was that a reminder to the priest that the subject material was a heavy matter? As
The burden of religious leadership.
yes,
Yeah, you have to go to the Israel Museum in Jerusalem to actually see, you know, what this looked like, and you can imagine how heavy it was.
yeah. And it's not a protective garment. It's not
No.
like, you think of the medieval soldiers in armor, and it was a heavy thing, but it was for protection. This is not so much for protection. It's a symbol of responsibility. And
With a reminder, I mean, that's an important word there,
yes,
is a reminder of not only the community, all the tribes, but a reminder of the history and like you say, all the burden that goes along with being the leader,
yeah,
the
it- it-
cultic leader.
yeah, yeah. I'm sure today a lot, not only religious leaders, but we even expect the same of our political leaders. In every country, whether it's a king, a president, or anyone, there's an oath of responsibility. And it historically it's changed over the centuries, but it is that we expect certain things of our leaders, and that's part of their oath of taking office. So anyway, I just tossed that out.
Yeah,
Yes, Rabbi.
I just coincidentally will be reminded of all this. I guess it's next month when the king will be coronated in Westminster
In
Abbey,
England.
and
Yes,
all of the different vestments and the robe and the crowns and
yes,
some of it dating back, hundreds, if not thousands of years. Right.
yeah,
Yeah, for me, it reminds me religiously when I think about the Vatican and the Pope and all those and everything. I mean, you recognize who's a cardinal by what they're wearing.
yeah. Yes, Michael.
Yeah, what happens in England is a demonstration of importance. They take it to a very, very high level to demonstrate not only to their own people, but the rest of the world, how important when you select a leader, how very, very important that, and that's their breastplate. That's that heaviness, that burden, that importance, and we do the same thing here. We don't do it with royalty, but we put on a display when there's a new president elected or the old one is in. We go through that whole. It's a very, very important ritual. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. So I mean, so that's what struck me here. Just in reading the structure, we've sort of alluded to it before, but here now it's coming to fruition, and it's a heavy object. Yes. Any other comments about the ephod? Don, would you care to read on?
Sure. And
I'm poetic today. Yes.
while we were talking, I looked at a different translation for the word "ushes," which is just basically settings for gems. Kind of, I wasn't familiar with that. Okay, so we're going on to verse
Verse 8.
8. And he made the breastplate of cunning work, like the work of the ephod, of gold, blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen. It was 4 square. They made the breastplate double, a span was the length thereof, and a span the breadth thereof, being doubled. And they set in it 4 rows of stones. The first row was a sardius, a topaz, and a carbuncle. This was the first row. And the second row, an emerald, a sapphire, and a diamond. And the third row, a ligure, an agate, and an amethyst. And the fourth row, a beryl, an onyx, and a jasper. They were enclosed in settings of gold in their enclosings. And the stones were according to the names of the children of Israel, 12, according to their names, like the engravings of a signet, and every one with his name according to the 12 tribes.
Okay. By the way, in some other translations, you may have other gemstones, it's all semi-precious gemstones, and there may be others. I honestly don't know what the reason is why the difference is, but it obviously was that each one of these stones also represented one of the 12 tribes. Rabbi, I'm going to ask if the rabbi has any comments about that. I just don't know more than that. But I don't know why different interpretations.
I don't remember where it is. It would take some heavy duty research to find it, but there's a midrashic commentary that relates the names of the stones to the names of the tribes, not with gematria, but more with acrostics of, that some of the that this tribe is associated with this semi-precious stone because the name has in it a reference to
Right.
something or other, being bravery or farming or fertility or whatever. I don't even remember where that is, but that's
Okay.
the only thing that I
Yeah.
know of. But again, I did notice a difference in translation
Yeah.
in the one that I've got here from what Don was reading in his, as to which one is amethyst and which one is lapis lazuli and which one is this. And we need a gemologist or a jeweler to help us identify it. Right.
Yes, Michael.
Is, oh yeah, I also believe that not only the 12 tribes, but in our calendar, the 12 months of the year, there's a precious gemstone for each month of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's not, yeah, but I don't believe that that's from us. I think that
No.
it comes from another place. Yeah, for us, it's
Zoroastrian,
the
I think.
symbols
Yes.
of the flag that they were carrying for the months. I know that Yahalom, which is a very precious stone. So anyway, I don't think it's ours.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay, read on, Don.
Okay. And I just switched translations so I could look up the Hebrew for all those different stones. Anyway, we're back to verse 15 now, I believe.
Yes.
And they made upon the breastplate chains at the end of wreathen work of pure gold. And they made 2 settings of gold and 2 gold rings, and put 2 rings in the 2 ends of the breastplate. And they put the 2 wreathen chains of gold and the 2 rings on the ends of the breastplate. And the 2 ends of the 2 wreathen chains they fastened in the 2 settings, and put them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod before it. And they made 2 rings of gold and put them on the 2 ends of the breastplate, upon the border of it, which was on the side of the ephod inward. And they made two other golden rings and put them on the two sides of the ephod underneath, for the forepart of it, over against the other coupling thereof, above the curious girdle of the ephod. And they did bind the breastplate by his rings unto the rings of the ephod with a lace of blue, that it be above the curious girdle of the ephod, and that the breastplate might not be loosed from the ephod, as the Lord commanded Moses. And he made the robe of the ephod of woven work, all of blue. And there was a hole in the midst of the robe, as the hole of a habergeon, another unfamiliar habergeon, with a band around about the hole, that it should not rent. And they made upon the hems of the robe pomegranates of blue and purple and scarlet and twined linen. And they made bells of pure gold, put the bells between the pomegranates on the hem of the robe, round about between the two pomegranates. A bell and a pomegranate, round about the hem of the robe to minister in it, as the Lord commanded Moses.
Okay, let's stop there, Don. Any comments about what Don has been reading? Yes, Ricky. Ricky, you're muted, Ricky.
Where did they get all these stones, these jewels, and this gold and stuff? You know, I mean, the various stones. I'm not a gemologist or a jeweler, but they don't seem to be stones that you would find in the same place. You know, at least 12.
Correct.
So are they trading? I mean, where'd they come from? I missed a couple of weeks, but I don't remember.
We've had this discussion before.
Sorry.
Whether it was purchased, whether it was traded, whether it was found, there's no mention.
Okay.
So take your pick.
All right.
Yes, Rabbi.
You know, just we need to raise the possibility that that the order that the order is reversed. In other words, that the description of what and Don's correct in saying this obviously is written much later, but the description of what the materials were to use could have been written or collected in recognizing what their inventory already was, rather than saying in advance, this is what you have to make it of. You know, they might have known what they had and said, okay, we're going to use one of this and one of this, and we're going to twist these cords to make this and whatever, you know, given what was in the storeroom.
Okay.
Very good. Well, okay, it's a tie. It's a tie. Don and Rabbi Mary.
Go ahead, Rabbi Mary.
I'll be just very quick to do my thinking similes and what I'm thinking in the description of he puts this and he puts down, you know, like in the airplane or in the cruises, they showed you how to put your vest and you tie it here and you tie it there and you tie it behind. It's a very interesting way of describing how you wear that plate. That's it. I'm sorry.
Okay, no, it's important. It's important. Yes, Don.
As to the source of the gems and the precious metals, let's not forget that the Hebrews borrowed a ton of stuff from the Egyptians as they were leaving Egypt.
Right.
So they would have had a source of all of that stuff to bring with them.
Some, yes. I just, but it's interesting also the different names that in different renditions, if you will, of the gemstones, the different interpretations of that, and I just find it very interesting. However, just as an aside, and then I'll call on Helene, I just wanted to mention, if you go to Africa, for example, and they will lump together citrine and topaz as the same stone, both being the same color. Both are silicates, okay? Both are, they have a lot in common, but the density is different. And that's how a gemologist can tell the difference. But by sight, you would not know the difference between. And just as so, it may have been a black stone or a blue stone or things like. We just don't know for sure. I don't know. Anyway, let's toss that out. Helene, go ahead.
Tell me, have you ever discussed in this group yoga or chakras? You know about chakras?
Yeah. Yes.
Gail does, yes, and Ricky.
Stones are the basic part of a chakra commission of any kind. And a chakra has a stone attached to it. So when you were born depends on the stone that you are stuck to. So tell me when were you born? What month?
Who are you asking,
What
Helene?
your month you were born? What was the month?
All right. For me, well, go ahead, Gail.
I was born in June and my stone is a pearl, actually, this thing.
Say it again, honey.
Pearl, June.
Coral. Well, what month were you born?
June,
Pardon, June?
yes.
June. Have you ever looked up your chakra for June?
Yes, I
your
have.
chakra,
I don't remember now what the stone is. I just remember the pearl is the the one that's the most common. So, but I don't remember the other one. I was thinking amethyst, but I'm not sure that's right.
no, most people do not in any way know about chakras unless they learn it. And I'm in March. March is my birthstone. And March is a very, very, what? I don't know what to call it, but it's a strong stone. And if you're born in April, your stone is water. Oh, I know. My stone is fire because I'm born in March. And March is one of the first chakras that is labeled with a stone. It depends when you were born. When were you born, Rabbi? What date? Hey, you got a 75th birthday coming up, don't
I
you?
do. So May
Okay.
May is my
Pardon me? Say it again.
May,
Yes.
the month of May.
May.
This is what?
May.
What?
We're still in April. I still have a while to go yet. I'm still a baby.
You're celebrating because you were born in this month. Is that correct?
Next month. My birthday is next month.
Next month.
Yes.
What is that month?
May.
What is it?
May. May.
May?
May.
Okay. I don't know what it is, but I'm telling you, if you go on a chakra line and you put down May birth, it will tell you the stone that is attached to everyone who was born in May. Everyone. Yes?
Helene,
This is yoga and chakras.
Helene, I was born in November, and I don't know, I was always told my birthstone was topaz. but I don't know if that's because in the zodiac, the topaz is November. So I don't know if somebody actually looked up that, but I was just always told my birthstone was topaz. So maybe there was somebody who knew about chakras when I was a child. I don't know.
And, and
But
your
I
birth,
don't know. Huh?
So,
you were born in which month?
November.
November. Okay, let me see if my brain can remember.
If you remember, you can tell me later.
Do, do you
Continue.
know a stone that's attached to November?
Yes, topaz.
Huh?
The topaz.
So you know it. God bless you.
Okay.
Helene,
okay.
Helene, the other thing about chakras is where on your body for each month. Mine is the throat for June. It's the
The
throat.
throat?
The throat is my chakra.
Okay.
However, the
What
stone,
is it? What's your chakra?
the
Your
throat,
stone? The throat.
yes,
But
and the stone
what
is
stone goes with the throat?
turquoise.
Ah, how did you find out?
She just looked it
Who
up.
gave it? Who
She
gave
just
it?
looked it up.
You looked it up. If you go on the internet and you put in chakras and stones and you investigate this, you will find your stone.
Well, as the British would say, this is a very heavy subject, the weight of stones. Okay. Anyway, let's get back to anything else in what we have just read that sparked any interest or any comments. Yes, Don.
I would just like to say that I find the ephod one of the most mysterious items in of all the things that I've read so far in the Bible. I haven't read the whole thing. And just the power of that image of 12, 4 rows of stones representing 12 tribes and all their different colors and all being precious. It's just a terrific image, I think. It just, it, it just centerpiece of it, I think, of everything we've been reading about the tabernacle. That's my
Yeah.
feeling about it.
I find it interesting from another standpoint that that Aaron is going to be in charge of the ritual aspect of things, while Moses, of the what we're going to call religion, while Moses is more involved with the philosophy of the religion. Any comments about that? Yes, Rabbi.
Well, I was going to get into it by also commenting that, all of this very detailed description on what Aaron or the high priest specifically
Mm-hmm.
will be wearing to denote his office, and his role, as opposed to when they describe Moses, it's not what he's wearing. It's what he
Mm-hmm.
says or
That's
what he
right.
does, for better or for worse. Aaron, there's very little description of who he is. Aaron is a mouthpiece. He doesn't often speak on his own.
That's right.
Okay. All right. So they kind of make that distinction
Oh,
not only between the religious or the sacramental, if you will, the role that Aaron or the high priest will play, versus the whatever you said philosophic, but
Mm.
he's also the civic,
Yes.
the civic and the judicial leader, if you will. I was at a conference I guess probably about 10, 12 years ago. It was before I retired, um, where there was, it wasn't a debate. It was kind of a humorous discussion between rabbis, and these are Reform rabbis, but rabbis of my generation and some of the younger rabbis on whether or not how comfortable we felt putting on robes and putting on garments that implied the sacramental leadership whenever you come up onto the bima. Not only do you wear your robes. They used to wear a larger hat, of some sort, and your voice would go down by 2 octaves, so that you'd be speaking down like this. And as opposed to the younger clergy who were all saying, no, I don't want my role as a rabbi, as a clergyman or clergy person, to be defined or described by only by what I'm wearing, but rather what comes out of my word and my deed. It was a very interesting, conversation there.
Fascinating, fascinating. Thank you for that. Yes, Gail.
I'm going to talk about Aaron, right? The mystery man. I almost consider him a robotic figure or a cardboard cutout. He just, we've never really been able to pin him down, with what kind of a personality he had. He's really a man of mystery. But all this symbolism that we've just discussed, and that's all it is, a symbolism.
Right.
And they put this on Aaron, and there he stands. But all he is the mannequin for this thing, as far as I'm concerned. We know nothing about him, really nothing. And yet he has this elevated position. So.
It's true.
The Midrash says that Aaron was Ohev Shalom Verodef Shalom. He loves Shalom and he pursues Shalom. So they gave him this kind of characteristic of putting people together, like coming to these two people that are fighting and saying to the first one, this guy is so regretful about what he did to you. And then they go to the other and it's like the same thing, this guy has been just to put people together. And you're right. And actually, Aaron is not very happy with the fact that Moshe is the leader and not him. Since he was born before Moshe. What he does is just translate what Moshe says because Moshe stutters or something. But you're right that he doesn't take a big role. And the role of the high priest comes much later when there is a temple. And you see, in Canaan, every tribe was separated, not just by being a tribe, but by area as well. And here we have the high priest carries all the tribes, and they have to respect, all the tribes have to respect what he does. He's a central piece there. That doesn't answer your question about Aaron. It was, I think that Rabbi Norman mentioned something regarding looking at things as in the future, they're going to be that way. That's my feeling, and my feeling about the entire thing. So it's an interesting, I cannot see Aaron, as you said, wearing all this stuff while they are in the desert.
I have to disagree with you about, you mentioned that somewhere in the Midrash, I guess, something about him being a man of peace, but first thing that came to my mind was the golden calf. which I really couldn't see as much of a peaceful, celebration.
Well, he wanted to appease the people.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
That's all you can say about that. That's right. Yes, Rabbi Norman.
But you're right, Gail. He is not a big macher.
Rabbi
I
Norman.
lost my train of thought for a minute. One of my teachers pointed out, and I don't know whether it's written this way in any particular scholarly manner, but um, uh, we have to remember, as you know, others have been saying, that much of what is written about Aaron and about all of this descriptive and all the pageantry and the beautiful vestments that he wore, all the details that went into it, and the amount that was collected. That this was all written later on and imposed back upon. And again, my professor Sam Sandmill made the comparison to what happens with Jesus in New Testament literature, that all of the gospel writers, none of them were eyewitnesses. None of them were actual
Right.
participants in Jesus's life. They're all writing from their own perspective on what they heard or the way that they want to interpret the narrative that had been handed down. And Sandmill makes the same kind of a case about Aaron. Okay, that in some of the different authors and the in the different sources of the editing of the Torah, that those, like the P source, that really wants to emphasize Aaron's role and the importance of the priests, written after the fact. So it kind of elevates the role that he would play as opposed to Moses. And again, if we're going to agree that it is written after the fact and it's trying to impose placing the role of Aaron, like the gospel writers will do with Jesus, placing it in a context so that it would appeal to those who are looking for such and such, a way to proceed into the future.
Okay. Yes, Don.
I'm just reminded, way back in 1975, I got sent to a month-long CEO grooming program, and the thing they told you right at the beginning was, if you get a new job, the first thing you do is appoint an operations guy to take the heat.
Right. Yep.
I don't think anything's changed since Moses set up his brother.
That's interesting. Another facet. Okay, yeah. Go ahead, Suzanne.
I just want to, I guess, respectfully disagree. Not all Christians think that the Gospels were written much later. There are those of us who believe they were written by the actual disciples. And one of the reasons is that none of them, Jesus predicted that the temple was going to be destroyed and not a stone left standing. And none of them wrote about that other than his prediction. So I know it's not total proof, but if these Gospels were written way after the fact, somehow that would have gotten included somehow, and it never did. So it's not the only reason, but it's the one on the top of my head right now that I can think of why there are those who believe that Matthew, Mark, John, and Luke were the original authors. That's all.
Well, thank you.
I
Thank you
just,
for the addition.
I meant no,
Another viewpoint.
certainly, Suzanne, meant me no disrespect whatsoever. What I'm referring to is what the biblical scholars, whether they're Jewish or probably more from the liberal Christian perspective, what they all
Oh
teach.
yeah, it's
But
a very
no
common.
disrespect
Oh
whatsoever.
no, Rabbi, that never even entered my mind. It's just that not all Christians, and I don't mean just myself, but there are plenty of other Christians and biblical scholars that, although albeit in the minority, that do think the original authors, or the disciples rather, were the original authors. So it's just another viewpoint, that's all.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the contribution. Any other comments? If not done, if you would pick up at verse 27.
Okay. Now we get
And
to
why don't
Aaron.
you, and yeah, this time, just read through, through 32.
Through 32, okay?
Yes.
Up to stop at 31. Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so. And they made coats of fine linen of woven work for Aaron and for his sons, and a mitre of fine linen, and goodly bonnets of fine linen, and linen breeches of fine twined linen, and a girdle of fine twined linen, and blue and purple and scarlet of needlework, as the Lord commanded Moses. And they made the plate of the holy crown of pure gold, and wrote upon it a writing, like to the engravings of a signet, holiness to the Lord. And they tied unto it a lace of blue to fasten it on high above the mitre, as the Lord commanded Moses.
Okay. Any comments? Yes, Rabbi Mary.
I'm going one step back to Gail. We do know that the descendants of Aaron are the Kohanim, which is, it's a group of people that are above all of us. They go to the Torah first, and they are holy, and there are special rules and behaviors for them. So maybe it's like the issue of, I'm going to give you something not for now, but for your descendants. Your lineage is going to go further. And it becomes a problem later on, but that happens from the stem of Aaron, not of Moshe. So perhaps that's, giving something for some other time.
Well, the issue probably would, who were they going to assign this job to? What better than Moses' brother? I don't think that anyone would have disputed that if Moses.
Right.
Something else, I don't, somebody else, there might be an issue. I don't know. It's just.
There is another moment that Aaron comes up, that's a pun. When they go up, Moshe, that there is a war. And if you remember, when he puts his arms up, we win. When you put your arms down, they meet. And the people that are, it gets tired. So one is Joshua, and one is Aaron that holds the hands. And this means, going to it goes to a higher level than the rest of Israel. That's what I recall, and it crosses my mind for that.
Yeah. Good point.
Is
I
it,
guess,
is it really,
Rabbi Norman.
is
Oh,
it,
sorry.
That's okay. Go to Gail.
I interrupted Gail.
is it really a higher position or just a position that needs to be filled? I'm not, you know,
It became a special, let's use the word special, unique,
but I'm not
separated.
more special than some, I don't know. I have to think about that.
You know, they cannot attend, they cannot go into a cemetery. They cannot marry this type of women. Even in the past, and even in the I don't remember if it's Talmudic or it's Tanakh. I'm not sure. But it is a body of a group that didn't get land but got prestige.
So it's based on lineage rather than skill.
Mhm.
Oh, it's no skill.
Question?
I'm sorry. No, it's not democracy. No.
Interesting.
Oh,
Yes.
it's definitely a caste. It's a caste system. Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. If I may, there's the Eitz Chaim commentary has a lovely little paragraph. It's based on verse 21 about the breastpiece and the ephod. The breastpiece was the symbol of justice. It's referred to as the breastpiece of judgment in chapter 28. And it symbolizes proper relations between people and their neighbors. The ephod was the symbol of worship, of a proper relationship between the people and God. And then the teaching, when religion is properly understood, justice and worship can never be separated from each other.
Oh,
And this is the rabbi
Interesting.
reading.
yeah, I like that.
That is a very interesting comment.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
why they're bound together.
Yeah.
what you're saying and what Mary said, Rabbi Mary said about raising the arms, you have it's really you have someone who's going to be a leader from the who represents the military, okay, the law and the enforcement of the law, if you will, also protection. You have the other arm raised by someone of religion. And as Rabbi Norman said before, you have the mind of the, I had said philosopher, but Rabbi Roman said civic leader. And it's a combination of that three. I wonder if this was also on the minds of our founding fathers. Separation of duties and responsibility that go along with them. I don't know, but it just struck me as you were discussing these things. Yes, Gail.
I was just thinking about how often wars that are about to start always look to the morality of their cause. And they call on religious leaders to put their imprimatur on their cause, whatever it may be, legitimate or otherwise. Even Putin is doing that now with the Russian Orthodox Church, for heaven's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow he needs that extra, I don't know, blessing or whatever you want to call it. But it's interesting how the military always kind of asks for the blessing.
Yes.
And most of the wars in the world and in generation were based on religion. Religion was my God is much better than yours. I'll prove it. And that's the separations, and it always, in my mind, if I'm not an historian, but I think that it was either an excuse or that's what, separating the religions. Rabbi Norman, could you tell me, because in my mind, there is no word for religion in the Torah. I don't think that even in the rabbinical literature, as a word that.
No, I think they use emunah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
You
so
know,
yes, believe.
faith or belief.
Belief. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. It's just that's an important commentary that you just made.
Mhm.
Okay. But so anyway, any other discussion here? If not, Don, if you would read verse 32.
Okay, let's turn the volume up. 32. Thus was all the work of the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation finished. And the children of Israel did according to all that the Lord commanded Moses. So did
Oh,
they.
okay. Any comments about this?
That's a big verse.
I know, but any comments about this? We sort of alluded to this last week or the week before. I've lost track of time. When we were talking about thinking, saying, and doing. The three times. This is repeat. The whole task is repeated 3 times in Torah of the building of the temple, or the tabernacle, or the Mishkan. And first first God says it, then Moses says it, and then the people do it. There's another way of looking at it. Any further comments about that?
The last word in Hebrew, vatachel, which is, it's from lachil, to be inside. It rang me a bell and I was right. My memory still works. It says, vayachulu hashamayim ve'aretz. And the translation is, thus the heaven and earth were finished. You use the word finished, which in the other one that's not. Vayichal Elohim, and God finished by the 7th day. Here it says completely. Completed is
Right.
much better because it's complete. It makes one. But it's like a work of God, of a creation of something that contents, that completes and contents. I would say shalom kind of
Peace. Yeah.
just the thought.
I think that's a very interesting. I know that discussion also comes up when we complete this whole chapter. It's a very interesting deal, because the wording is sort of that we're entering right now is sort of similar to the book of Genesis, and I know Rabbi Sachs goes into that. I'm sure that our 2 rabbis will see and be able to discuss this further. Yes, Don, you were going to say something.
Well, go ahead, finish your thought, Marty.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I'd rather everybody discuss it.
I was just going 2 quick comments. One is that it's so graphic that the finishing act is for this plate, holiness to the Lord, is mounted on the staff that I believe on a mitre that Moses raises up. That's how I picture it anyway. So it's a very graphic picture. And then the other thing is, and I'm going to defer to Susan on this because I seem to recall that the words "it is finished" are the same words that ended at in the crucifixion. That may have been borrowed from Exodus at this point because I'm going to defer to Susan. It seems to me that there were two epic events that correspond here. But I'll shut up because I don't know enough to go on with that thought.
Yeah, that's in the
Okay.
second.
Okay, go ahead, Susan.
Yeah, traditionally, in the New Testament, it's recorded as Yeshua, his last words were, "It is finished." However, there have been enough language and biblical scholars who took a closer look at the Greek and determined that what he actually said was paid, it's paid in full. So if you go with a concept that that Yeshua took everyone's place, people who lived in the past and in his present time and in the future, which would be us and beyond, that he took upon himself all the sins and died in our place so that we could all have eternal life, then paid in full makes far more sense, that he paid the debt of sin. I don't know why originally it was translated, "it is finished," but that was how it was done, and that's been the tradition. But more and more, the paid in full translations are becoming more mainstream.
Okay, so sorry about that. It was a red herring on my part.
No,
Okay.
no. I'm just happy for the opportunity to I don't want to say correction, but just provide a more accurate view of what happened or what was said.
Okay,
So no, it's all good. It's all good.
thank you. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, Don, if you would start with verse 33.
And they brought the tabernacles unto Moses, the tent, and all his furniture, his taches, his boards, his bars, and his pillars, and his sockets, and the covering of ram skins dyed red, and the covering of badger skins, and the veil of the covering, the ark of the testimony, and the staves thereof, and the mercy seat, the table, and all the vessels thereof, and the showbread, the pure candlestick, with the lamps thereof, even with the lamps to be set in order, and all the vessels thereof, and the oil for the light, and the golden altar, and the anointing oil, and the sweet incense, and the hanging of the tabernacle door, the brazen altar, and his grate of brass, his staves, and all his vessels, the laver and his foot, the hangings of the court, his pillars and his sockets, and the hanging of the court gate, his cords and his pins, and all the vessels of the service of the tabernacle, for the tent of the congregation, the cloths of service to do service in the holy place, and the holy garments for Aaron the priest, and his sons' garments, the minister in the priest's office, according to all that the Lord commanded Moses. So the children of Israel made all the work. And Moses did look upon all the work, and behold, they had done it as the Lord had commanded, even so had they done it. And Moses blessed them.
Okay, very good. Yes, Rabbi Norman.
Yeah, as we had mentioned, the literary parallel to the story of creation in Genesis it is so obvious there. It becomes even more obvious as we were saying with as Rabbi Miri was saying with the Hebrew words and the verbs that are the same, and the Midrash jumps in and says that when God looks out at all that has been created and sees that it's tov me'od, that it's very good, and he blesses the seventh day, whatever. And then here, when God is pleased with all of this construction and says, "Okay, Moses, good job," and Moses tells the people, "Good job," and blesses them, that both God and Moses at various times they quote, and of course, don't tell me that because one's thousands of years later, it doesn't matter, but they quote Psalm 90, which ends with the phrase "Maaseh Yadenu Konaneu," may the work of our hands long be established, long be sustained, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a midrash that follows up exactly on the parallelism that we've been talking about.
Yes, I found a little chart written by Rabbi Sachs on this very thing, comparing the statements made in the book of Genesis and the act of creation, and also the book of Exodus and the acts of creation of the temple. If you want, I can read the actual verses that he compares. Otherwise, you can go online and see it in his commentaries on Pekudei, which would have been the parsha at one time. But so if you want, I can read it. Otherwise, in more detail, or otherwise we can move on. We'll move on. This is it's a very important aspect, I think, because I'm just going to say that it's sort of by combining these two books, you can see the importance of this theme, and that this has, after you have the chaos and the creation of the world from out of the chaos, and then you had the enslavement of the Israelites and the chaos it created in the Israelites, and how now this is going to set order in the world by having a temple for God. It's going to be a dwelling place for God on earth, not just in heaven, but also on the earth. It is another completion of a cycle, if you will. The Hopis would be very interested in this, Gail. The cycles, right? So anyway, why don't we read, if there are no other comments, we can go on, and let's see. Yeah, we have plenty of time. Let's do verse 1. We're going to start chapter 40, verse 1.
Marty, can
Yes.
I interrupt for 1 second? I was thinking back because you sparked a little thing when you said, and this is another example of God told us what to do. We did it, and then Moses and God looked for it and said, and it's good. Okay, all right. So it's humorous, but I got to do it. I've been paraphrasing a number of my professors today. So one of my professors of homiletics that's sermon writing and whatever. Whether you think he did a good job or not good a job is besides the point. But he always says when you sit down to write a sermon, just remember that you're actually writing 5 different sermons. Okay, there's the sermon that you want to give. There's the sermon that you actually wind up delivering. There's the sermon that the people hear. Then there's the sermon that they talk about at the Oneg Shabbat or when they're driving home or walking home after services. And then there's the sermon that they talk about a week later.
Oh, please.
It's true.
Rabbi,
It's really true.
because when I'm asked to share at an Al-Anon event, the speech I plan to give, the speech I actually give, and the one I'm adding for your list is the one I thought of after that I should have given.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
There's that one on the way home. It's like, oh, why didn't I say
Yeah, right.
this?
Why didn't I say it that way? Right.
That's right.
Exactly. Right.
Oh, you got 6 now.
And then there is the artificial intelligence written sermon.
Oh, right. Let's not go there. Right. Let's not go there. Right.
Which it brings up another totally different subject. Okay, yes, Don.
This isn't as good as yours, Rabbi, but a similar one about the congregation listening to a sermon. 1/3 are intensely interested in the material, 1/3 are asleep, and 1/3 are having erotic fantasies. So you know at least 2/3 are going to go home happy.
Okay. Okay.
Shouldn't have said that, Don, while I was drinking.
Uh-huh.
Oh, that was good. Okay, Don, because of that, I'm going to ask you to read verses 1 through 8.
Chapter 41 through 8.
Yes.
And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, on the first day of the first month shalt thou set up the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation. And thou shalt put therein the ark of the testimony, and cover the ark with the veil. And thou shalt bring in the table, and set in order the things that are to be set in order upon it. And thou shalt bring in the candlestick, and light the lamps thereof. And thou shalt set the altar of gold for the incense before the ark of the testimony, and put the hanging of the door to the tabernacle. And thou shalt set the altar of the burnt offering before the door of the tabernacle of the tent of the congregation. And thou shalt set the laver between the tent of the congregation and the altar, and shalt put water therein. And thou shalt set up the court round about, and hang up the hanging at the court gate.
Okay.
Did you say 1 through 8 or?
Yeah. Just that. And any comments? You don't see any similarities or anything else? Combination of the, we've been talking of the tabernacle and the tent of the meeting. Here it's all combined into one. Any ideas? We'll come back. All right, go ahead, Don.
Verse 9. And thou shalt take the anointing oil and anoint the tabernacle and all that is therein, and shalt hallow it and all the vessels thereof, and it shall be holy. And thou shalt anoint the altar of the burnt offering and all his vessels, and sanctify the altar, and it shall be an altar most holy. And thou shalt anoint the laver and his foot, and sanctify it. And thou shalt bring Aaron and his sons unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and wash them with water. And thou shalt put upon Aaron the holy garments, and anoint him, and sanctify him, that he may minister unto me in the priest's office. And thou shalt bring his sons, and clothe them with coats. And thou shalt anoint them, as thou didst anoint their father, that they may minister unto me in the priest's office. For their anointing shall surely be an everlasting priesthood throughout their generations. Thus did Moses, according to all that the Lord commanded him, so did he.
Okay, any comments?
It sounds like a summary.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, Don.
I thought it was significant that it's the start of the long priesthood of Aaron and his descendants. Or this was it? I should ask: is this the first place that Aaron and his family have been appointed eternal priests?
Yeah. And I would like to emphasize for all of us to remember that the sons of Aaron were also anointed. It's a very important detail.
Okay. And why do you say it's an important detail?
Do you want me to tell you what's happening next? Don't you want some mystery forces
Well,
for what we are going to read in the future? I don't
Well,
want to tell you.
we just read it last week. In the Torah
Well-
portion, we just read it.
In the portion.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
okay.
I would say, well, I was.
But why is
Yeah.
this anointment? There's something here that what is happening? We've mentioned the word early on in our discussions. A single word comes to mind: responsibility. That if you're anointed into an office, a position, whether you like it or not, you've accepted a level of responsibility that comes with that office.
Yeah.
This is what
And also
Mary is.
the word anointment, Mishcha and Mashiach. Okay, so that's a very it's a very crucial word for whom are we doing and what that person is going to do if it's a person. So Mashiach is someone that's anointed, and in the future they're going to anoint the kings, as you said, Marty, people of responsibility and so forth. So that action is an important one. We don't use today oil.
Really? Really?
She's not talking.
Oh,
She's not
another-
Here, I'm gonna go ahead and take over.
Eileen, can you mute?
Right, yeah, she fell asleep.
Oh, she
Yeah,
fell
that's
asleep.
Doing the laundry, guys, sorry about that.
That's
It's
okay.
okay.
Yes. Can have a good rest of your afternoon. Have a good night, guys.
Okay.
Tell her we love her. Thank you.
We will.
You want
it Tylenol?
Oh, how do I stop this? This is Torah.
Go down to the bottom with the cursor, the bottom left-hand side. And
Oh, I see.
Oh, no.
Leave meeting. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a blessed day.
Thank you.
Rabbi Norman, when someone is about to die and we do vidui, do we use anything that's mishcha, oil, or anything? I know that Christians do some of that, but do we do any of that?
Not, it's, what should I say? It's not a majority of opinion. There are some references to some communities that used to do something like that, but no, not a not
Okay.
a not a usual custom. No.
Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Suzanne.
I've been sitting here, listening to this, and I don't know if I'm off, maybe I'm just way out there, but this with Aaron and then also Moses, I can't help but wonder if the two of them together are symbolic of Melchizedek, because Melchizedek was both king and priest, and he was the only one in scripture to be so. And I believe the Messiah is also on return, is also supposed to be king and priest. And I just can't help but wonder if, because Aaron and Moses are brothers, if that isn't some kind of temporary symbolism for Melchizedek. I don't know. I probably off base. That's what I was thinking about.
All right. Yes, Rabbi Norman.
I think I understand your question, Susan. Moses is never anointed.
No,
Right.
no, he's
Okay.
he's
Yeah.
not.
So Moses never carries the title of a Mashiach, Messiah, one who has been anointed. Here, that particular ritual is for the individuals, but also for the clay kodesh, for the holy items
Mhm.
and the place. Okay, anything or anybody that is being um, designated for a very, very sacred, in a positive sense, but also in a taboo sense, in a prohibited sense, from separated from the ordinary, becomes
Holy.
Mashiach.
Holy.
Yes.
Mashiach becomes anointed in that sense. But Moses never has that designation at all.
Okay, but Aaron was anointed, though, was he
Oh,
not?
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
as you say,
Yes.
not
and the kings,
Moses. Okay.
Aaron and those who follow in his line, and the kings. Some of the prophets also, and then there's a strain of some of the rabbis that claimed that, whether or not we don't necessarily have a description of a ceremony, but they claimed the title.
Are Aaron's descendants the Zadok priests? Is that right?
Are they? I'm sorry.
The Zadok? Am I saying that right?
Well, Sadok.
So
Yeah, Zadok.
Sadoka Kohen.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Just that. It's a name, but it also just means righteous. And the line of the high priest becomes the Kohen Tzedek, which is where anybody who has the last name Katz,
Cats.
right,
Cats.
right.
Cats, bear, cats.
Katz Nelson, whatever. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but it's Kohen Gadol in Hebrew, the great priest or the high priest in the Bible, in the Tanakh. But then later on, it becomes the Kohen Tzedek, the righteous priest, if you will, and that's where
okay.
Zadok, just a different vowel pattern.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Don.
I'm sitting here in fascination because after 40 chapters, this is the bookend, the other end of the shelf. And I remember when we first started this, there was Moses standing in front of the burning bush, hearing the voice of God, commanding him to lead the people, and it had no context whatsoever. And for Aaron to be the priest of he knew not what. And now 40 chapters later, it's all come together in this incredible 40-year trek. And the tabernacle and all the trappings of the priesthood. And it's still the same thing. You know, God has kind of reissued the command, I think, except now it has more meaning. I kind of crashing off through the
Okay.
woods with that.
Rabbi Norman and Gail.
Don, I'm going to modify that. This is not the end of the 40 years. Okay, there's still
Of course,
yeah,
I'm
there's still a
sorry, yeah.
long, there's a lot, this is
Right.
the, the next step. Let's call it a graduation ceremony, perhaps.
Right.
It's going
Yeah.
from, from middle school to high school or something like that.
Right.
They still have an awful lot to learn, to experience, and to refine. So it's not necessarily it's certainly not the final bookend, but it's
Right.
it's a temporary bookend, if you will.
Yeah. Thanks for that correction. Yeah.
Gail, you're next.
Yeah, I know we're not going to quite finish today, Exodus, but I'm thinking ahead to the next couple sessions when we're going to be starting a new book. Are we really going to do Leviticus?
You hate Leviticus.
Or may I suggest, well, it's just a
Go
suggestion.
ahead, suggest.
Putting it up for discussion. How about if we do Kings, do some history for a couple of months instead of Leviticus, and then maybe go back to Leviticus. But no, it would be kind of nice to do some history. And I think
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You can start with Joshua, Sefer Yoshua, with Yoshua.
right,
Well,
just a suggestion.
okay.
I find Leviticus
Offensive.
and irrelevant.
I'm going to skip it.
You know, the reforms for a long time did not read that. In my mind, that's, it's more important to struggle with it and to fight with it and to find content. But I know based on your beliefs and your way of living, that's not something that you like to deal with.
It's all ritual stuff, and it's
No, it's not all.
Bloody.
Much, but not all.
I'm trying to be
That's
nice.
right.
I'm trying to-
But it becomes important. It's important to review the rituals. But but if we can emphasize the rituals, but there is so much more in the book that we would be missing. So, I know you don't like, and other people don't like the idea of if I'm going to coin a word, animal side. but
No, it isn't just that, but it's it's a very dry book. I'm sorry, it really is.
Well, sometimes you have to read some things that are dry.
I know, but I've been through this many times, with Torah study over the years. I think this is like the sixth round.
Maybe we will be emphasizing some other things during it.
You can try.
It's a challenge. I'm going to take up the challenge then, Gail, because because it's important, because it leads into some of the other books, and you take the books out of sequence. If we put the cart before the horse, if we do the book of Joshua before, and come back, if we do Kings before we come back
But do we
to
have to come back to
this, then it's gonna
Yeah,
take it. It's like reading the last chapter of Gone with the Wind and skip, after the intermission.
well, what I was saying was skip Leviticus,
Tomorrow is a better day.
Joshua, and then go to Numbers and just skip Leviticus altogether. That's all I was suggesting. But I
Okay.
can see I'm losing this battle, so.
Well, I would.
Can we make a deal with Gail, maybe? We'll do Leviticus, but we will also, whenever we get through, or whatever, add some history instead of going back to Genesis.
Okay, because,
No, just
that I
some of it.
agree with, because it's now the future. But we can't forget the books of Genesis and Exodus, because they lead up to this.
We've done Genesis and Exodus, so let's do, and Leviticus and Numbers, and then maybe do Joshua and Kings before we start all over again. That's what I'm saying.
I'm
You
gonna,
do all the other books.
We're
We
a
are
long
looking
way-
about
we're a long
another
way away
5
from
years
this.
down the
I'm
road.
just throwing it out.
problem with it, Ricky, is I'm gonna be
Okay.
84 here in a few weeks. I'm not gonna live long.
I hear you. I'm 81, so
Well, from the standpoint of things, would you send me your actual objections to what's written? Okay, the three ladies that have, that have alluded to this, because then I can understand more about where you're coming from.
Oh, come on, Marty, you know where I stand.
Well, I know some of it, but there are other aspects to it.
It's all priestly writing, it's very.
Yes, but that's.
Whatever. Okay, I surrender.
Yes, Rabbi.
Okay, I have a compromise suggestion. Okay. And I'm willing to do, I may not be able to do it this week, but we're not quite there yet anyway. And maybe Rabbi Miri or maybe others want to, participate in this, is do a quick review and identify a number of, rather than the entire book of Leviticus, right? But a number of stories, chapters, experiences, episodes, whatever. I mean, my bar mitzvah portion is in there. I'm not going to avoid, we need to talk about
Sorry.
that, obviously. Same, and David would say the same thing, incidentally,
Yeah.
because it's the same portion. But maybe we can identify, rather than going verse by verse by verse by verse, maybe we can identify about 20% of the entire text from that book, and do an outline and say, okay, we're gonna focus on these. That's a compromise suggestion.
Okay.
But I also want to endorse, and when the time comes, yes, moving on to other parts of the Tanakh, whether it's going with Joshua and whatever, or just saying, okay, for the next 10 weeks, we're going to work on the book of Psalms or Proverbs or something like that, just to do something a little bit different for a change.
Okay.
The problem is going to be, however, that not everyone is going to have a text that has commentary.
That's right.
Okay,
That's
so
right.
we need to keep that in mind also. Maybe find some way of sharing, screen sharing or whatever, different commentaries for it. But that was my compromise thought for Leviticus.
Oh, that sounds good. I like that.
It
I
is.
think that the library in the temple has several Tanachot, Tanachim,
Sifrei Tanakh.
Sifrei Tanach.
It does.
I
It
think
does.
that you guys have it.
And I think it sounds great. Sounds great.
But
But I'm going to take leader's prerogative, just like, because I mean, I have someone standing next to me, not really, but somebody standing next to me as a lesson about leading a group. And it means that I have to share responsibility. And so what I may opt to do is to suggest a combination of things. I think that that it's important to bring in the kings. I mean, at times we've tried to discuss Torah, and like that. It would be very exciting. But to see how they relate with regard to what we're reading. And I was very serious when I used the example of Gone with the Wind, and just, well, it's tedious. It is tedious, but there's a reason why it's tedious. And every year since I have known Gail, this has come up. And I say that I just think we're going to lose something out of the whole context. So I will be happy to do a portion to get the ball rolling, but then we're going to have a sign-up sheet. And somebody is going to take the responsibility of bringing in to the discussion as we go through the book of Leviticus, the book of Kings, okay, and other books that are relevant to what we're reading.
Okay, Marty, could I say something?
Yeah.
Okay. I understand what you're doing here, but I think that's too choppy. My rationale really, truly, it's not just because Leviticus is kind of off base for me. There's such a wealth of stuff to read in the Tanakh that we never, ever have time to look at. I mean, there's some wonderful stuff in the rest of the Tanakh. It's not just Torah. And I would really like to go in depth and study some other parts of the Tanakh. I think that's where I'm really trying to go. So it's not just Leviticus. Thank you.
Can I add to that? I'm looking at my Jewish Study Bible. All right. That's how much we've covered in however many years. I would love to do the whole bloody Tanakh, but I don't think Gail or I or anybody, well, maybe Suzanne would live long enough to get through the whole thing. But I'm for, I agree. There's just so many other good sections, Kings, Chronicles, even the prophets, there's just, as Rabbi mentioned, Proverbs. There's so much here that we just ignore,
Well, that's what you're saying is you want a different course. You want, that's what you want. And so maybe we need other stuff in addition, other courses in addition to Torah.
Okay, I have a second compromise.
Okay.
I have a second compromise.
Uh-huh.
How about an hour of Torah, Leviticus continuing as we're going, and then a second hour of something else that we agree upon that we want to begin from the rest.
We have done that in the past, and it has worked. As long as there were volunteers to pick up on each one of the different books that we covered.
Understood, sure.
Right. And because one person can't do it all.
No.
Marty, when I was in school, we had the same schedule per week, and we had one class called Torah and the other one, Nevi'im Uktuvim. So it was two. So I think that if we could do what Rabbi Norman is suggesting, or we can do week and week, or we can do a new course. I'd love for you guys to know what's after Torah. There is life after that.
Oh, yeah, there are lots of
And
books
it
after.
will be wonderful.
That's right.
Yeah.
So what I was going to suggest, if we do go to 1 hour of,
Don has his hand up.
Okay, go ahead and finish, Marty. Go
okay,
ahead.
if we have 1 hour of Torah study, and then somebody else would pick up on 1 hour of whatever. But I think it should, there is a potential of, when it becomes disjointed, we may not get as in-depth as we would like. That's all I'm going to say, because so let's say, which book, so which book are you going to read next? Are you going to read Joshua and then Kings and so forth, or are you going to take all of the prophets?
I don't think you can do the prophets without historical background.
That's right. That's the point. And how about Talmud?
Oh, that's totally
It's a couple of
yeah.
years away.
Yeah,
That's right.
way
It would have to. Well, right now we're talking of maybe 10 years away. If we go
Well,
into these things in depth.
Yeshua is convenient because at last they arrive. So it would be a nice continuation, as you call
Yeah,
it.
it would be. So
Yeah, and there are, and Shoftim Rishonim,
Well, maybe,
Shoftim, they are very difficult.
okay, how about this? Let's do Leviticus and we'll do, we'll finish the Torah, assuming we're all still standing.
Sitting.
And then that would be a good point to go to Joshua. We'll finish the Torah in another year or something, and then go to Joshua, because that actually is the continuation.
yes,
And that would be a logical thing to do. And that wouldn't be choppy, like Marty is asserting. I just think it would be a logical, really. I don't know.
we could do that,
Sorry.
and then take and intersperse some of the other things if from another portion of the Tanakh. It just seems that that otherwise we're going to put it, just using what popped into my head before, say, you just don't want to suddenly insert Scarlet, I don't give a damn into the original story, the beginning of the story.
Okay, all right. So what do
Gone
you
with the Wind.
All right, so let's say we'll do Leviticus. I may not be here every week, but we'll do it. And we'll finish the Torah, and it's probably another.
But only an hour's worth.
No. I'm
Oh,
saying,
okay.
let's just continue on as we've been doing. I'm willing to bite the bullet, and we'll finish the Torah. Okay, but when we get to the end of the Torah, then we'll go to Joshua, because that's a very logical thing to do. And we'll see how that goes.
All right.
That's my compromise.
All right. We can do it that way too. Yes, Don.
I'd like to speak as, without doubt, the weakest member of this group in terms of knowledge of the Bible. But I say it first, I found this incredibly richly rewarding for me to have stuck with this for this long. But it also seems to me that the order of the books of the Bible were assembled after much debate by the wisest rabbis in history, and that there's a reason for it. And I like to think that that the result, the canon, is divinely inspired. And when it comes to democracy, about how to study it, I think that, the golden calf was the result of a democracy. And that, I'm not sure, I certainly wouldn't value my vote in what to do next. And, I condescend to everybody else because you guys know a lot more than I do about what we're reading. But unless there's a good reason, I like the idea of just sticking to what the ancients put together. And if it doesn't work, yeah, I guess we could change, but that's my perspective.
After Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy.
I think a nice compromise, and I know it's worked before, Don. We would take an hour to do Torah and just do that, and then somebody else gets, participates for an hour to discuss one of the other books, but take it in sequence. You have if you want to, if you want to do Kings, because there's a separation after everyone arrives in Canaan like that, then there's a little jump in time. And I have no qualms about things. I can see going over the Book of Kings, but you're going to have to do it when you go over some of the readings in the Book of Kings. You're going to have to refer back to other books in the Torah.
And you need Samuel 1 and Samuel 2 and prophets until you get to Kings.
I don't mind
I
doing
think
that.
the suggestion of, I'm willing, Marty, to follow the suggestion of Rabbi Norman.
Yeah.
And for us, those that have the time and inclination to go through the Leviticus and find stuff that's relevant and it's not offensive and it's not slaughtering and things like that. I'm willing to take part in it. And now I'm saying.
Okay. Are you going to volunteer to help with that?
That's what she said.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know if it was waving goodbye or or that you'd volunteer. Okay.
I know. I like the idea of going right then into Joshua, Judges, in chronological order of how the book thought placed, but also historically, Joshua makes sense.
Okay,
Historically, you're right, Ricky, because on the Torah, as the rabbi said, there is no beginning or end. It doesn't matter where you go. That's what rabbi said. But you're absolutely right. After Yeshua, history starts, even for Mary. Right. So it's a different flavor altogether.
Yep.
So again, I think, let's do Leviticus as best we can and do
as quickly as possible.
Next two books. And when we get to the end of the Torah, it would just be a logical thing to go to Joshua there.
Right.
Bye.
Okay. Well, we'll see how things go. We have another week to think about it. I know it's very detailed, and maybe the people who want to skip over it, maybe they should give a report on the book of Leviticus. Not only the heaviness of it, but also the detail of it. but it is interesting, and I know that somebody who did this before me was very much into doing it like that, and was always hoping that a new temple would be rebuilt, that they would find the red heifer and be able to build a new temple. But the problem is, with the new temple, we would have to go back to this. Let me give it some thought. And if you have any other ideas, Ricky, Susan, you're the only two left. If you have any other ideas, that's fine. But every year, the same issue came up in the past, and every year we conceded. It was only during the person that preceded me that everything was at, and we lose a bunch of continuity in the literature.
Well, I think accepting what the two rabbis said they're willing to do, so that we do Leviticus, but we do it quickly.
Yeah, we can. I think we
don't have to
can.
belabor every point.
Because I do know that two people who are not here right now, they would want to hear it read. And if somebody wants to hear their particular portion read with their bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, we would be doing a mitzvah in letting them read that portion. So it is I think we can speed it up by just having someone read through it. You can probably read through several chapters in a row very quickly, because there is a lot of stuff that I know that some people get upset about all the rituals aspect of it, but maybe that is what we need to discuss. Why the rituals are that we don't like to hear about. It moves us in the wrong way, but why is it there? Why is it there? Are we supposed to just accept it as written? Or are we to say, hey, wait a minute, is there another way that that we can offer as a substitute? And the rabbis will talk about prayer in addition, rather than the sacrifices, and other ways we sacrifice or we give to the institution, let's put it that way, of the temple, today's temple, as opposed to the temple back then, and the reasons why the sacrifices are being made, why you should think about them, not just at Yom Kippur and not just on Sabbath, but to think of them on a day-to-day basis, because that's what they were getting after and reading it including it in the readings of, the daily parshas. So maybe that's how we can do things, but I don't mind reducing it to an hour for the book of Leviticus, and we can probably get through it within a few weeks, because the same issues would come up with everything, but there are certain aspects to certain types of adverse behavior as to why the sacrifice is being made too.
I think I heard from Gail, and I think I would agree with it. Do Leviticus. She said she put her hands up and said, I give up, or I concede, or whatever she said.
Yeah.
But do it quickly, and possibly just skip over some of the really, parts. But then, as in its proper sequence,
Hmm.
continue on to Joshua, after Numbers, because then it makes sense.
Well, Leviticus, I mean Deuteronomy, you mean?
I mean, after
After
I'm sorry,
Deuteronomy.
yeah, after Deuteronomy.
Yes, and then it makes sense.
So
Uh,
we'll give her Joshua in exchange for a
And we're going to do that part,
Right.
but the whole sequence, but then we need, because if you take the Haftarah,
right. But we
Okay.
never do the Haftarah here.
excuse me?
We never do the Haftarah here on Saturdays.
No, we don't, but basically it's
I know.
prophets and and kings,
Wonderful
it's
stuff
all
in
in
the
there.
Haftarah.
That's right. So that's why I say it would we could certainly do that. And so I'll let the group decide which books we discuss, and who's going to volunteer to discuss them as we go along. I don't think there's any problem.
Yeah. Okay, so have we kind of
Yeah.
made a decision
So in
of
2 weeks, I figure in 2 weeks we'll start the book of Leviticus,
Leviticus?
and we will condense it to an
quickly.
hour, and wherever we.
That's not what I was saying. And
Okay.
it's not what I think Gail was saying. Do Leviticus quickly. The two rabbis said that they would pull out
Sure.
key. So do Leviticus quickly, then do Numbers and Deuteronomy, and then Joshua. So we
Okay.
give it some history, but keep it in order. Not
Right.
only, what's his name that wants it, the rabbis put the books in order for a reason,
Yes.
and in the order that they're here. Joshua is the logical next step after
Right.
Leviticus. So, I mean, after Deuteronomy, I'm
And then
up
Kings.
on Leviticus.
Yeah.
So
Well,
just
actually, Judges would come after.
Judges. Right.
yeah,
And there's a lot of
Judges-
stuff in Judges
there-
that-
That's
yeah,
right.
right.
So but you want it to be in such a way that there's continuity because it's written over time.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Do finish Torah.
Yeah, and we can do this. We can
And
read.
then do
Okay.
Joshua and Judges, that type of thing. But in doing the Torah, go quickly through Leviticus.
Okay.
Do the important parts of Leviticus so it all makes sense.
Right.
Right.
I agree.
That's what I'm
Condense-
getting after.
Yeah,
That's-
There is
condense
still
Leviticus.
important information
Right. Do the
that
important.
if you don't cover it, you don't understand what comes later.
Right. Do Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges.
And
Okay.
we'll be able to do all of this very, very quickly. Yeah, it'll work. We'll be able to
Right.
do all of this. I don't see any problem with it, but other people then are going to have to volunteer. Okay,
When you get to Joshua and Judges, a leader doesn't necessarily need to expound on anything because the way we've been
Right.
doing things, it's just read this. Okay, who has a comment? Who has a feeling about what was just read? So the leader, is
Yeah, well, that's how we usually
the
wind up doing it.
the facilitator more than anything else. Watches for hands up,
Mhm.
more than finding other references to read. I'm looking for my bookmark. Well, there it is. To put in that we haven't finished Exodus yet. We'll get there.
We'll get there. We'll get there next week. And then we'll go on from there. Anyway, you take it. I think I'm trying to put it together in my mind. And I think that this will be a good way of handling it. And yeah, I think we can manage that.
We'll figure it out when we get
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
We'll see who's still alive when we get there.
Hang in there.
I plan to.
Take care.
Okay. See you next week, I hope. Bye.